everyone, and welcome to this episode of the vlog. Hey man, that's a little bit too far away. That's better. Looking straight at you. Right, okay, so today's episode we are going to be taking the battery, that's the EV battery, out of the vehicle. Now, before we continue, I must give you this disclaimer. It's very, very important. Unless you are an EV1, preferably, unless you're on EV4, because the things I'm going to show you today, you should be certified to EV4 level to be able to get to this. Do not try this at home. If you have no experience with handling with electrics on any vehicle, do not try or attempt this. And for that very reason, I am not showing you all the steps that we need to remove the battery from the vehicle, just so that people don't use this video as a tutorial. This is simply a video showing you my journey in getting this car back on the road. Good, right, okay, so today I'm going to show you, if you're contemplating buying a salvage iD3, this video, unless you're competent, should be enough to put you off. So let's get on and let's get the battery out of the car. Okay, so in the last couple of days I have had tons of stuff arrive. This has just arrived literally 2 minutes ago. I had a wing arrive, I had a seat arrive, I had a whole lot of bits arrive. This is the wing. This wing's come all the way from Germany and it is perfect. Because what I try to do with this build is get everything in colour to save on painting. The front bumper you've already seen, the back bumper's underneath that cardboard box. This is my old bumper. Tell you what's happening with that in a second. We've had two sets of headlights. Here's one headlight here. Here is another headlight, and they're like practically brand new. It's been crazy the amount of stuff that's come. Right, got electric seat. Now, I was originally going to cannibalize the top half of this seat and put it here, because the last time I did airbags on my S3, it was quite expensive and I had the seat repaired as well. Now, it was a leather seat, admittedly, so that's the reason why I had it repaired. And you can get these restitched by a car trimmer, but the cost to do so is quite expensive. So each of these airbags, second hand, they're around £170. If you buy them new, they're about £400 a piece. This whole seat, it's a whole electric seat, cost me 190 quid. So for the price of one airbag, I've got a whole seat. Now this is an electric seat, and originally, like I said, I was going to take the top half and just stick it on there and then put the wiring in. However, this wiring loom, when I was checking it, so this is the electric car seat one, this is the original one. You can see that there is one wire difference, and that is that here, that cable there at the very end, you see it's missing, and then here there's a red cable, so obviously that's the power cable. And when I looked on the actual car, in the car seat, that power cable was there, which means that it's ready. It may just need a fuse, but I'm going to see if we can utilize the electric seat. So before we take this apart, we're going to test that out. So that's great. Right, okay, and I'm going to open this up to see which door it is, because I ordered 2 doors from abroad. I suspect this is the back door, but let's take it apart. You'll see that in a second. Okay, so it's the actual front door. I thought this was going to be the back door, so that's good. This door looks better than the picture. So the picture, the guy made out that this door was in pretty bad condition. He took these pictures here and this looked like this was all damaged. So I was thinking I have to take it from my the old car, the original door, but all this is tape. It's where it's been taped up. That's all it is. So that will clean up nicely with some isotope. Now there was some damage on the door. You can see it here where there's a scrape. You can clearly see it's a scrape, but that will come up well by one of these touch-up guys. Yeah, these yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And this bit here, well, this will polish out, because it's not that bad, it's not that deep at all. So this is the only bad bit in this door. Other than that, it's in really good condition. Very pleased with that, very pleased indeed. And it's got, look at that, it's got all the internals. And this, see this is the important thing. This is the door crash sensor. So that's what set the airbags off on the car, and these are about 90 quid each. So the fact that that's come with it, That's a really good thing. That's one less that I have to get. Okay, good. Very pleased with that. All right, now we just need to find out what's in this box. So let's open that up, and then we'll take a look and see what that is, and then we can get to the real job, which is start to get the battery off. Right, so in this box was an airbag. So this is a replacement airbag. It's going to replace this one that is gone. Found this one real cheap. So that's going to go in the car. Right, that's all the bits and pieces that you've seen. Let's get to the real job for today, and that is the removal of the battery. So we'll do as much as we can in terms of getting the battery out. We've done some prep work. There's a couple of things that we need to do. So the first thing we're going to do, we need to remove the under tray. There's two under trays that need to be removed. Let me show you them. So here's the first one here. So this one protects the actual connectors. So we've got one more bolt to undo, which we'll do now, which is just in here. Here she is. And then we'll pull this forward, and it should just come away. And come away she does. So there's our connectors that we need to take out. Let's get a better look underneath there. There you go. So those are our connectors. So these levers pull out, and then that releases the connectors. Then we've got a couple of other little ones that we need to do. You can see how thick the battery is as well, can't you? Yeah. And then I've just taken off this trim on the side here. You can see these bolts. These are the bolts that are holding it up. But before we undo that, we've got a plastic trim at the front, just further down there. See it there? We need to undo him. So I will get to a state where we are ready to sort of control or have the battery that in place, the trolley holding the battery, and then we'll come back and see how we're getting on. Okay, so before we continue, please don't try this at home. This is your disclaimer. So we've disconnected the battery, all the connectors now, so the battery is free with the exception of the water connection. So the hoses that connect the battery and cool the battery, they're still connected. So what we have to do is slightly lower the battery, but first of all we have to undo these bolts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side to do, 6 on the other side. This will then take the weight. Remember, this battery weighs 206 kilos. This stand can handle 300 kilos. So we should be good, and it's balanced in the middle. So we're all good from that perspective. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to probably do that side first, and I'm going to stay well out the way, and then we will we'll come and do this side. All right, we are almost there. Let's get on and do it. And there you have it. The battery is out. In the end, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. We just disconnected the 2 water hoses here, let the system drain out a little bit. There was hardly any water in there anyway. And then literally you can see what holds the battery in place. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the first 4 bolts you undo. Then you do these, and there's a sequence to doing these. Basically it's a bit like taking off a head on a car, so you don't stress the frame. You basically do that corner, then that corner, then that corner, then that corner, and then there, and then you just work your way through. And then these are your high voltage connectors, and then you have an earth here. So now I'm going to very carefully push it into my garage, but first of all I've got to make some space, because at the moment the garage is a little bit full. So let's go and make some space. We'll bring this round first, very carefully, because it is going to bucket down tomorrow, and I want to be able to work inside the house and do some work, not inside the garage areas, and take the tray off so we can take a look at the fuse. That's the ultimate aim, to get this lid off so we can take a look at the fuse. All right, let's get them in the garage. Phew, we got it in. Man, that was hard work. It was hard because I had to see that little lip there. Normally that lip means absolutely nothing. We cut that lip in because that's straight and the garage is not. But here I might as well have been going uphill and pushing the dead weight, because that's how it was. So the way I did it was, the end here I used my jack to just lift it, which gave me enough momentum to push it forward, and then let the wheels for the little truck underneath there. That little truck that saved my life a couple of times. It's brilliant, but it allowed me to be able to push it into the garage. So now we can work on the battery. So what we have to do now is we need to take off all these little screws, all 72 of them, and then we'll prise that off, and then we'll be able to have a look at the and take the pyro fuse and get the right part for the pyro fuse. The pyro fuse is about here. So this compartment here is empty, and then the batteries are literally this stack here. So this is where the battery populates. So this is the 48 kilowatt battery, like I said. All right, quick breather, little coffee, and then we're going to come back and take the screws off. Right, so since the rain has come and it's going to be here all weekend, we're going to now work on taking off this lid here and then get to the fuse. The first thing we need to do is give this a clean, because it does actually say that in a manual that you should clean off the top before opening the case. And then we've got these 4 sockets that we need to take off. So these are 24 mil socket, so we'll take those off. But before we do that, we're going to mark them so we know which one goes where when we need to go and put them back. And for that, we're going to use a different felt tip pen. So let's get this cleaned up first, and then we'll mark them up. Okay, so we've labeled these up here. You can just see it. I put numbers, so it's number 4, so I know which one goes where. Now we just got to take them off. So we'll start taking them off, and we'll start unscrewing all of these. Right, so we got all 72 screws out on the outside. There was also these screws here in the middle that hold them in place. Didn't see those either. They are under a wax coating, so we'll need to put that wax coating back to ensure that they remain waterproof. So now is the moment of truth. We should be able to just lift the lid off. It will need some prizing because it's not held on by glue, it's just a bonding compound. It's not even a bonding compound, it's just a sealant, so it should just come away. According to the VW manual, you need a couple of suction cups, which I actually have, but sadly they're at my place of work. So we should be able to bring it up with our hand, and then we'll get to the battery and the take a look for the first time at the pyro fuse, which should be around here somewhere. Let's get the lid off. And here is our battery unit now, with the lid off. Now, if you notice through the time lapse you saw me doing this and taking the lid off, normally you will be all geared up, you would wear a helmet, etc. But because this battery has been discharged and it's cool, I did that. But you would normally be all geared up with all your suits, so don't do what I do and this is a disclaimer, this again, I'm saying this is not a tutorial. This is my journey on how I've to get this car up and functional, and I have missed out a whole lot of process and steps deliberately so as not to make this as a tutorial. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got 8 battery packs. Each of these battery packs weigh about 25 to 30 kilos each, which represents our combined weight of 206 kilos. And yeah, so that's the battery unit. So these batteries fully charged about 48 volts each. When I took this off the car, it was saying it was about 50%. So I'm expecting these to be between sort of 40, between 48 and 46. Well, it won't be 48 because it's not fully charged. We will test these to make sure that they are okay, and I probably will show you that process because it's quite as simple. As you can see that you've got a minus and plus sign, so the batteries are connected up in series via these bus bars. Bus bars are what you use to carry high voltage, and these, as you can imagine, as you start from one end and go to the other, you get to a combined voltage of around, fully charged of around, well, in its current state, I reckon these are about 40 odd volts each. So coming out of the terminals here, between that port and that port there, you're looking at a combined voltage of about 350 to upwards. That kind of voltage will kill you. That's the reason why you don't mess about with EV batteries if you don't understand and haven't been trained to do so. Like I said, I've had EV1 training. Normally this kind of work that I'm doing is done by an EV4 trained technician. The bits that we're going to concentrate on is this unit here and this unit here. So this is the battery regulator. So essentially what the battery regulator does is that in each of these cells there's going to be an individual battery pack. Now as the car charges and discharges, what happens is that those battery packs can over a series of time become uneven. That's how you get your battery degradation. And to illustrate, imagine 2 batteries. One battery's got 5 volts, the other one's got 8 volts. As they discharge, the one that has the lowest voltage will dictate your minimum charge. So when that gets to its minimum charge, that battery will show up as depleted. When you charge it up again, the one with the highest charge will basically stop, and that will stop everything from charging, and that's how you get battery degradation. So when this here controls that to try and regulate the voltage between all of the batteries. And it does that with a whole series of resistors, etc., which is what all these connectors are. And in here, there are some intelligence to control that. Now, often when you see batteries explode, it's because they get to a critical temperature. And with lithium-ion batteries, once that temperature is obtained, it literally will continue to combust until all that fuel is expended. So the battery pack next to it will get to that temperature, and so on and so on, and then you get a chain of events. And that's the reason why lithium batteries, ion batteries, are so dangerous, and why they have to have these special sealed containers to protect them in the event of a crash. Now, when you crash these cars, iD3s and iD4s, in fact most of the VW batteries, what they will do is they will blow the pyro fuse here, and then that will render the battery pack useless. When I say useless, basically it will disconnect the current so that when any fire crews are dealing with the car, they basically don't get electrocuted. And that's the reason why we have to change this. But as well as changing that, we have to change this as well, because that is the recommendation from VW. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this bus bar here. And notice what VW do is they encapsulate the bus bar in plastic to protect the engineer who is working on this, and of course stupid people like you and I. They're basically making absolutely sure that we're not going to electrocute ourselves. And if you notice here on the bus bars, they've got little lifts, little handles for you to pick up. So when you undo that and you undo that, you then lift it up. Now normally when you're working on vehicles like this, you need to reduce the battery, the chance of electrocution. So the way you do that is by disconnecting one of the bus bars or all the bus bars. Then you're reducing the electricity load to a safe limit. Okay, enough gassing. Let's get this bar off, and then we're going to take a look at that and take a look at that, and then end this video. Okay, so the bus bar has now been disconnected. So this is now neutralized. There's no power coming to this, which means we can now safely take out this regulator. This is called a J480, and this pyro fuse is called a SX7. These are the two what will generate those codes, the pyro fuse blown, and these are the two units that you have to replace. So let's get them out, and then we can see the part numbers, and then order those up, and then I think that's be it for today. Right, okay, so we've got the main pyro fuse and the battery regulator off the vehicle. Now this one, basically you've got this little sticky pad that keeps it in place. So I had to manipulate that to get it off. I've also taken the top off this so I can show you the pyro fuse. There you go. So inside here you've got these two big hefty relays, and what these relays do is they dissipate the electricity. So when you're turning the car on and you pull it into gear, you get a bolt of electricity, 320 volts, which is bad for the car. So what these do is, these relays, they have a resistor, and which goes through the regulator here, and they basically step the power so the car doesn't get a surge. It just gets a gentle power curve rather than a massive bolt, which will be bad for the batteries. Here we have our pyro fuse. So this is the guy that's gone. We've got our multimeter here, and what we're going to do is we're going to test for continuity, so you can hear that sound. So that's what we should hear when we're going across. So just to check, we'll do one terminal. You can hear that. We're definitely getting that. So if we go on the other side here, you can see that we're getting nothing. So clearly that's where the problem is. Here, nothing. Here, power, but nothing here. So just this little unit here, you can't replace this little unit if you think, why don't you just replace that? The VW process for this is to replace all of this kit, and then you have to get this regulator set so that it basically understands the charge of the battery. Otherwise, if you don't, you will reduce the effectiveness, or the you reduce the charge in the battery. Basically, you won't reduce the charge in the battery. What am I trying to say? This won't know what the state of charge is, and so it will basically it will give you a lower reading than what your batteries are capable of, thus making your car less reliable. Hope that makes sense. Right, that is it. So we've got to order this, and then we can get the battery back into the car. Let's conclude. Alright, so we're going to order those two parts and get them replaced. Now, once again, as a disclaimer, if you are not experienced in handling or you're not EV4 trained, you don't quite understand electrics, do not attempt. If this car, with all those battery modules added up in series, will output 356 volts, okay? 356 volts, that's more than your domestic appliances, which is 240, in fact 220 to 230 to be precise. That will kill you. That is enough to kill you. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't mess about it. Literally just use this video for reference, not even reference, just view the video and then leave it to the experts if you're not experienced. So hopefully this will give you enough information that if you're considering buying an iD3, that any iD3 that crashes, it will let go of the it will blow the pyro fuse. It's designed to do that. In fact, most EVs will do that as well. So, but particularly the iD3 is challenging because you've got to take the battery off to get to the pyro fuse, as you saw with what I had to do today. So if you are contemplating, and I've seen quite a few iD3s that are for sale on eBay because people have bought them from salvage, realize that they've got to take the battery out, and that's it, end game. They can't do that, so they're putting the car back on sale. And bearing in mind, my car has got the lightest battery of the whole range. It still weighs 206 kilos. If I didn't have that lift, which isn't even big enough really, to be fair, that was a risk using that lift, and I had to use my jack to push it into the garage just to dissipate the weight a little so as not to cause a case to collapse. It kind of shows you what you're dealing with, not to mention the crush hazard as well. So this is me giving you a health and safety lesson. If you are not competent, if you don't have the tools, if you don't have a garage like I have, don't do it, don't bother. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you are a casual viewer, and there are so many of you, don't forget to subscribe down below. Click on the bell notification so you're notified whenever we release this video. And don't forget, subscribing costs you nothing. So we'll see you on the next one next week, and for more rebuilding efforts on the iD3. Have a good week.